What's up, so? Funny. What's up? I have to put all the accent on it. Son of man. Yes, the unofficial Peruvian national anthem. Oh. So it's been an interesting news day, right? It's been an interesting news day, right? Everybody... Hi, Jesus. Oh, it's been a day. Guys, Latina Noticias changed their branding. They've gone to green and yellow from the blue and yellow. And I sort of wonder if they thought we wouldn't notice they're still a shit news channel. Un poco. Yeah. Like, did they think if they went to green and yellow that we'd just be like, oh, this must be a good news channel now? No, still shit. Still shit. And yes, I've actually learned a lot of Spanish in Peru. It's just that I started at 0. And so now I'm at like 10 words. No, I'm getting better. Just not gonna do this in Spanish anytime soon. And where are you at in Peru? South of the Metropolitana. That's a banger, by the way. I mean, it's very 80s, 90s-ish, but that's a banger. I will update you with the latest news in Peru. There's been a fair bit that happened today, and I think there's a fair bit that we need to have discussions about, right? Where we really need to grapple with some stuff here. I mean, there's some stuff, man. You're from Jersey, but you're currently in Peru. Like New Jersey? Peru lets people from New Jersey in? I don't know. I am definitely not going to talk about Katy Perry in Mexico. Well, I don't know many people from New Jersey. Only one off the top of my head. And yeah, so and I've never been to New Jersey. Surprisingly, I've never been to New Jersey. So I've been like a lot of places all over the U.S. and Canada, but never New Jersey for some reason. I don't think. Okay. Here's the thing. I understand that all Peruvians are going to go into any football match with the idea that they can be victorious. Okay. Peru would have to be able to score. Okay. I understand Peruvians are very patriotic when it comes to football. But I mean, please understand that you're not going to win a game if you can't score. Okay? You had a penalty. Did you actually have the penalty? I don't even remember anymore because I didn't watch the game because I didn't watch Chile, Peru, because I know this is going to happen. Like, I remember Canada versus Peru, and I had people making bets with me. Okay, yeah, they didn't call it. Yeah, but I had people making bets with me, and I was like, you know what? Peru can't win because Peru can't score. Like, that's really what it comes down to for Peru. They're a decent team, but they can't score. And you're not going to win if you can't score. No, but everybody's going to go into it with like this, like, oh my God, we have a chance. We have a chance. And I'm a realist about it. Even for the teams that I am a fan of, like, I'm a realist about it. Like, yeah, I want them to do well. But it's probably not going to happen. The current team is a bit of a joke. You don't really have anybody who's on that, like, true international superstar level. All right. It is 6 p.m. Just a second. I just realized the door cracked open. Okay. It is 6 p.m. Let's talk about some news. Does everybody in Lima have water currently? I wrote about it, as a matter of fact. Everybody in Lima has water right now, right? I will get to that. I will get to it. I've written about that too. Um, I'm a little bit better today. I'm also a little bit more medicated than I was yesterday. Um, so okay. San Miguel wasn't on the list of the 10 districts anyway, but yeah, so 10 districts in Lima having their water shut off at various times over today and tomorrow as Sedipal is doing maintenance. So just pay attention and don't be shocked if you briefly do not have water, or if you don't have water for half a day or something like that. Have water ready for yourself. Go pick up a box or a bottle or something, I guess. Nicanor Boluarte. Did he flee the country? That's where I'm at right now. He fled the country. Because he hasn't appeared in court in the hearing, right? He's been ordered detained for 36 months. Which I think he knew was going to happen. His lawyer can't contact him. Did Dina Boluarte's brother flee the country? And there's Jesus over on the YouTube. So that's what I think. That's what I think is going on. So I will update my story on that before I completely shut down for the night, probably. But Nicanor Boluarte probably fled the country after being ordered to be, well, probably previous to being ordered to be detained for 36 months. I think the big news for most people today, and this happened while I was live doing the midday update, is Darwin Kondori being found dead in a hotel room or hostel in San Juan de Lurigancho. And Jesus wants everybody to go over and watch on YouTube because he feels alone over there. Don't blame him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That cop. Yeah, that one. He was wanted in the femicide against Shayla Condor, and he hung himself. I have to be very careful about how I describe this on TikTok, right? So, yeah, he unalived himself. He committed suicide. He hung himself and slit his own wrists, and apparently also took pills to make sure that he would pass away. The situation surrounding it seems to be... Yes, some comments in this live were filtered to protect community's experience. Doesn't surprise me around this story. Just be careful in the comments because I don't want anybody to get in TikTok trouble. And I don't want anybody to get in YouTube trouble either. Just be careful about what you say, because around this particular story, this particular bit of news, there's things that are difficult to talk about. There are images and videos both available on other social media platforms. One represented by a bird and the other one represented by a butterfly. So I like I don't know. There's just some stuff around it that seems weird, right? Like the six others being detained were also released this morning, which would have occurred right around the time that somebody would have reported his body. So, a little bit weird. A little bit weird. Not overly weird. Not like this automatically requires a conspiracy theory, but like weird enough that you look at it and go, well, do we know everything? Right? There's obviously a lot of people kind of upset about this. Because they see it as him sort of being a coward and avoiding responsibility for his actions. Personally, I see this as a much, much bigger issue than him. And I think a lot of people also see this as a much, much bigger issue than him. There's a serious, serious, serious problem within the Peruvian National Police that needs to be dealt with. And I posted both an article and a video on that as well. That is that like Santibanez has to go. He has to. Even if he thinks he's doing a wonderful job, he needs to go. Even if Dina Boluarte thinks he's doing a wonderful job, which I'm sure she does because he's protecting her, he needs to go. You shouldn't feel sad about that, though. You shouldn't feel sad about that, Jesus. Santibanez's response, as well as the response of some senior leadership within the PNP to this entire situation, as soon as the femicide story broke, has been awful. And you've seen today them try to ramp up how forcefully they talk about the situation. But they're not talking about the greater issue within the PNP. They're talking specifically with anger towards Darwin Condori. And Darwin Condori is somebody that, yeah, you absolutely should be angry at. But his death in this situation does not then absolve the remainder of the police and the leadership of the police from what they've done, which is fail the Peruvian people and very, very particularly Peruvian women. The National Police consistently fail to protect women in Peru. It is absolutely unforgivable. And within Peruvian culture, I know that's unforgivable. Like, I understand, like, the sort of Latin American machismo cultural aspect. I also understand that machismo exists because that there is an expectation that women are protected And the national police has failed. They've absolutely failed. From before the storm broke, like 3 women that we are aware of reported Darwin Kondori to the police, and they did nothing. Shayla Condor would be alive today if the national police did their job. Instead of focusing more on how they protect each other and how they make sure that their brotherhood of police is safe. And just a second. So as a former soldier myself, thank you. As a former soldier myself, I am sort of disgusted by I'm disgusted when police say things like, our job is dangerous, our job is hard, our job is, whatever, as some sort of excuse for their ineptitude or their failure or their incompetence. I hate it. I hate it. It's not just police in Peru, by the way. I've said this in front of an undercover cop in Canada. I said it right in front of him. I said, if cops think they're so fucking tough, strap it on with a soldier and let's go. Right? Because it's not the same thing. They act like it's the same. It's not the same thing. Police officers are supposed to be there to protect people. They are not supposed to be there to protect themselves. You sign up for that job with the understanding that you're going to be in danger. You sign up for that job with the understanding that you are willing to die. If you're a soldier, if you're a police officer, if you're a fireman, you know what that job entails before you ever do it. You sign that contract, you take that job. That's your duty. When it comes down to it, you need to be willing to give your life to save somebody else. Right? And you know that. You're thinking the whole time it's not going to come to that. It's never going to happen. But you know the possibility is there. And you get into certain situations and you know that it's more likely now, right? And you know what the cost is. You know what you need to do. And the police in Peru don't have that same ethic. They don't have those same morals. Being a police officer is not a 9-to-5 job. Being a soldier is not a 9-to-5 job. Okay? As a soldier, you are never off duty. You are always on duty. You are always ready to go. As a police officer, you should be the same. Always paying attention. Always ready to go. Always ready to do the right thing. Yeah, exactly, Jason. You miss birthdays, you miss holidays, you miss family events, you miss all sorts of things. You don't even really get to choose when you take vacation unless it's like something you really can't miss, right? And by that I mean, like, is there a funeral you absolutely need to attend? Yeah. Okay. Then, okay. But, like, you schedule marriages for like block leave periods of time where like your entire unit is on vacation because that's when they decided everybody's going on vacation. You schedule Christmas in November because you're not going to be home, right? Things like that. And the police in Peru don't think that way. They do not think that it is their responsibility to do the right thing for people, regardless of what they think of them. They don't know what it's like to be willing to sacrifice for people that they see as less than them. That bullshit classist mentality just permeates the entire police force. And that comes from leadership. And if you don't have good leadership, your entire organization becomes toxic. And because of that, Santibanez needs to go, and so do several other senior leaders within the police. Leader. Yeah, that's what it is. I think, and Jason in the comments would probably agree with me on this, the police in Peru seriously need to give a read over FM 22-100. It's Army leadership. It's a field manual for the United States Army. I wish it was Pavel. It'd make my job easier. So yeah, Jason, like I kept my copy and I had it right up until we moved to Peru, and I would read that thing because even after being a soldier. Because if you want to be a goddamn productive and good human being, read that. FM 22-100, military leadership. And the police in Peru need to fucking read it more than anything. There's really not a whole lot that annoys me more than bad leadership in those sorts of organizations. Organizations like the National Police or the military or firefighters or those sorts of jobs where it is your job to do a difficult task at a difficult time and to stick together through it. And yeah, the Peruvian police right now is a national disappointment. It's a national embarrassment. And they may be the only organization in Peru that has a lower approval rating than Dina Boluarte. Yeah, in the U.S., they like Santibanez would have been put out on his ass a long time ago. It is a failure of national leadership. It is a failure for Dina Boluarte as well, because she should have acted a long time ago. Congress should have acted a long time ago. It is a failure on every single member of Congress who hasn't stood up and said, Santibanez needs to go. This is damaging to our national police force. And it's gotten to the point where it's damaging to such an extent just having him around. Yeah, this space is about Peru. It's so damaging having him around that you're going to get to the point where you're going to have to seriously think about whether or not you keep the national police or whether you change the whole system. I don't know if people remember this, but that's what happened after Montesinos. Right? Montesinos was the head of the intelligence agency in Peru. And because of Montesinos, you had to disband the entire intelligence apparatus and replace it. Right? And you're potentially seeing that right now under Santibanez. Because you are going to go through probably a couple decades after Santibanez is removed before people begin to trust police in any meaningful way. And that's if you replace Montesinos with good leadership, or we replace Santibanez with good leadership. Nope. I live on the playa south of Lima. I don't just try not to get into specifics too much. If you view me over on YouTube where Jesus was a little while ago, then you sort of get a better idea of my surroundings, because up here I've got a green screen and over there I do not, which I know is very intriguing for some people, that they can see my furniture. This is a leftist space? No, it's a news space. Why, you like Dina? You like Santibanez? What's the crime like in the area? Safe? Yeah, like Miraflores is generally safe. If you are a woman, I'd be more aware of my surroundings. But generally speaking, yes, Miraflores is very safe. It's one of the safest neighborhoods in Lima. Generally speaking. But I don't like rojos. What's a rojo? Define it for me, please. Yeah, it's a common sense space. For instance, I don't care what you emotionally believe a socialist to be or emotionally believe a communist to be. Communism has a definition, and so does socialism. So when you label somebody, be accurate about it. Dina Boluarte is corrupt. She's a money launderer. Okay, don't like her. I'm being accurate about it. Right? But she's not a socialist. Not in any fucking sense of the term. Not ideologically at all. Like I've said, socialists don't go get plastic surgery while the country burns. That's not socialism. It's not communism either. So, no, ideologically she fails to meet that standard. Be critical of people, just be accurate about it. Use the right terms. I don't the one thing I do not enjoy is intellectual dishonesty. Yes, I live in Peru. And no, I'm not MAGA. And no, I don't particularly like the Democrats either. Yes, he was. We were just talking about that, Pam. Why do I choose to live in Peru? What happens with Peru? What happened with Peru? Where in Peru do you live? South of Lima. Why do I choose to live here? Family, and it's better. Yeah, we'll make Peru great again. Yeah, just tell me when it was last great. And the thing is, the people of Peru are amazing. Lima's amazing. A lot of the cities around Peru are amazing. I don't live in Miraflores. I bought my furniture in El Salvador. Right. I'm gonna ruin a lot of fucking stereotypes for you. A lot of fucking stereotypes. I don't like gringos, for instance. Now, gringo to me and gringo to you have different definitions. So for your definition, I am a gringo because I am a white dude from North America, right? So therefore, I fit your definition of gringo, right? My definition of gringo and the definition that's more popular in North America is basically because they're all there. They're all in North America. They would all be gringos by your definition of it. But the definition up there is someone who's ignorant. What city in the U.S. did you live in? Let's see, last time I lived in the U.S. was 2006, and at that time I lived on Fort Drum, which is a military base in northern New York. After that, I lived in Ottawa, which is in Canada. Because I was born in the U.S. but raised in Canada, and I'm back to my frequently asked questions. Yes, Elizabeth, where everybody. Yeah. So, yeah. Oops. So yeah, if Jason is still in the comments, yes, I was 10th mountain. Yeah, there you are. how long was I in the military? I joined in May 2001, and I got out September 2006. I got out because I was experiencing MS symptoms of multiple sclerosis while I was deployed to Iraq. They got really bad, and so they fast-tracked my exit so that I could get back to Canada and get better treatment, because Canada has better treatment for multiple sclerosis than the US does by far, which is why I look like this now and I'm not in a wheelchair. Yes, Army. Am I married? Yes. And it wasn't hard for me to adapt to Peru or Lima. I lived in several places all over the United States. I lived in Canada. I lived in South Korea as a soldier. I was stationed in South Korea for a year. Did deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. So Lima is just another city. You speak a different language than the cities I had been in, but it's just another city. It's a cosmopolitan city, or a relatively cosmopolitan city. Yeah, exactly, Jason. Lima's a cakewalk. Before moving, yes. No, it's not a problem to, and you don't need to thank me for service. It is a shame that our authorities do not value our resources. They value them in that they all have a price tag. So in that sense of the word value them, they do. But in terms of actually caring about them, no, they don't. Yes, there is a lot of corruption. I tend to talk about corruption pretty much every night we do this. Yeah, weeknights from 6 until 7:30. I do this. And weekdays from noon until 1 p.m. I do this. And invariably we talk about corruption every single time. Would I ever want to be in politics in Peru? Well, not really, because I can't. So if it gets to the point where I'm in politics in Peru, outside of being a mayor, I could be a mayor, right? But how do you feel about the military? The military is probably the best job I had in my entire life. Now, that's not going to be for everybody. That's not going to be the same thing for everybody who was in the military, right? I was an intelligence analyst in the U.S. Army, right? And so that's what I was trained to be. I ended up doing a lot of other stuff. So in that role, I was usually the mission planner or the NCOIC of the S2 shop, which means that I was either the boss or I was mission planning, right? And so that part was good. But then I got to, we'll meet lots of interesting people. I got to act as a liaison to several different militaries. And the United Nations Assistance Mission Afghanistan, I got to I had to interact with like the International Red Cross, and I had to, do all sorts of fun stuff like that. And at the end of my career, I was trained in the Iraqi military to do military intelligence, right? Um, I'm gonna flex on Jason a little bit, maybe, but uh, no, no, I'm just kidding. No, so like the last stuff that I was doing in the military, I was on a MIT team, and I was, um, so the MIT team ended up being like sort of my temporary duty station, right? And I was filling the role of a master sergeant uh, in that position. And yeah, I liked the challenge. I liked what I got to do. I liked that, because I was good at my job, I liked that I could, make those transitions to like when I wanted to be on the ground outside of the wire, when I wanted to be off the fire base or off the air base or wherever we were, I could do that because I was good at my job and people trusted me to do that. And so I liked that. I also liked that, when I didn't want to do that, I could say, okay, I need to sit here and put together 300 slides so that a nice infantry guy can go out there and deal with a problem. I liked both sides of it because I have more than one side to me. I'm not driven to put together slideshows all day. I am driven to get results. And would I move to the US again? No, I would not. I don't trust that country anymore. To be very honest with you, I don't. I don't. I am much better with my MS now. Uh, I had a stem cell transplant in Canada, so yeah, I'm good. Um, I served with people from very different backgrounds in the U.S., right? Whether it was like race or their economic position within the U.S. or whatever it was, cultural, all sorts of things. People all over the country. And I watch a country now that wants to sort of say somebody who's this type of American is better than somebody who's this type of American, and that's not my experience in the Army. My experience in the Army was that a lot of those people who said that I'm from this part of the country, so I'm better, or couldn't back it up. And so no, I wouldn't move back there because I don't trust them anymore. Have you seen the news about the cruise that's going to depart on the day? Yes, 4 years at sea, so that you can completely avoid the Trump administration. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I have seen that news. I don't agree with it, but I mean, yes, I've seen it, and I'm sure somebody will do it. Oh my god. What would be the reason? Corruption. Corruption is the reason. Um, Also, that survey is going to talk to mostly adults, right? And in doing so, they're going to talk to people who, some of them were born under the military dictatorships or lived through the military dictatorships, and Some of them were born under Fujimori or lived through Fujimori or the first Alan Garcia or the second Alan Garcia or, but they all, as adults, like they all have this sort of relationship with the government where they can't trust their government. And when you can't trust your government, and you see certain people benefit under different governments, and then it sort of builds resentment. And I see it in conversations on here where people will say that, like, if you're from this place, you're not as good. And it's not true, right? But there's also a lack of understanding in Peru, right? And a lot of that, I think, comes down, there's a geography problem in Peru, right? So it's harder to communicate across the country in Peru, outside of the internet now. And I hope that at some point that really starts to break things down. But like, you're just getting to the point where you're installing broadband internet into places like Cerro de Pasco, right? And so that also has something to do with it. You don't talk to each other, and you sort of assume then, like, that people from different parts of the country are backwards or not as advanced or don't understand or not educated, those sorts of things. And like, it's just not true. Yeah, but like, politics is sort of personal, right? Because you develop your own sort of belief structures, and it comes from your parents and what your parents did and what your parents experienced, and then what you experience and how you feel about people. Like, some people are naturally very empathic, right? People outside of Lima are nuts. No, they're not. People outside of Lima are victims of the ronderos, just like you would think they are. It's no different. They are victims. People, yes, there are criminals outside of Lima. There are criminals in Lima. What, you think like you live in Lima, so there's no fucking criminals all of a sudden? If there's no fucking criminals in Lima, you're going to have to explain to me then, like, why is it that you have all these districts in a state of emergency? Is it because of the lack of crime? Are the police trying to create crime because there's not enough? Yeah, and other parts of the country are also bad in crime, right? Which is the failure of the national police. It's not, oh, my fellow Peruvian is dumb, or my fellow Peruvian doesn't know better, or my fellow Peruvian is backwards, or my fellow Peruvian is crazy. It's no. The national police failed. The leadership of the national police failed. Where am I? I'm south of Lima, south of the Metropolitana, like, still a region, obviously, but we don't really get an opinion on these facts until we get older. Yeah. Yeah, you have to experience certain things. You have to have life experience. And I don't think they're nuts either. I think everything sort of has a logical explanation, right? Peruvians who voted Fujimori, whether that's Alberto or Keiko, they're not nuts. They're not nuts. You can make arguments about how they view society, for sure. Like, you can do that, but they're not nuts. Oh, TikTok making me verify my existence. Isn't that fun? Um, they're not nuts because in some way they benefited, right? In some way they did benefit under Fujimori. And that's why they vote the way they do. It's why they think the way they do, right? But the damaging part about it is that they refuse to acknowledge that there were a lot of people who suffered in that same time period. Yeah, they think they're making the right decision and everybody else is nuts. Oh, sorry guys. I've got allergies and so sometimes they just act up for a little bit. Not politics, but civics. Civics should be taught. Civic responsibilities should be taught. How government functions, what government is supposed to do. The Constitution should be taught. Castillo was not even close to the worst president. Not even close. Not even in the fucking neighborhood. A bad president, sure, but like, you could say like disappointing, underwhelming, underperforming. Yeah, sure. But the worst? Like, not even close to the worst. Like, were you alive for Alan Garcia's first term? Alan Garcia's term from 85 to 90 is maybe the worst term of any president in the world ever. You experienced hyperinflation and had to change your fucking currency. Remember Sol Inti Nuevo Sol? I don't know if I have any in my pocket. I don't know if I have any in my pocket. No, I don't. Oh, that's all keys. Yeah, I don't think I have any souls in my pocket. Nope, just centimos. Jays. Ah, there's one. Yeah, Sol. Yeah, then some of them actually do say Nuevo Sol. Right? Castillo didn't surround himself with very intelligent people. Look at who your president is. It was a disaster of a presidential term. Alan Garcia's first term was. It was a disaster. So anybody who does this thing where they're like, "Oh, so and so is the worst," or "so and so is," they're like, "We're gonna get out of Boluarte at some point, right? That's gonna happen, right?" And people are gonna look back and they're gonna go, "Boluarte was the worst president in Peruvian history. She's the worst president ever." People are gonna say that right now. She's the worst president. She's certainly the most unpopular. Right, but worst? No, right? Because like there will always be Alan Garcia's first term. Yeah, gringos also don't have a memory. And I understand that many Peruvians are inclined to support Donald Trump for social reasons. So don't think that I'm like saying that. Okay? But gringos also don't have a memory. Like they sort of forgot COVID existed. Okay? And they sort of forgot the economic conditions and they sort of forgot all of those things, right? So don't think that like gringos somehow have politics figured out, because they don't have it figured out either. Um, we're just talking at this point, Lucho. Um, look, there's no country out there that's perfect, right? When I wrote up my winners and losers from APEC, who did I put as the number one loser from APEC? Canada. Canada was the number one loser from APEC. Now, I think Canada, for the most part, doesn't really care too much about APEC, other than some strategic meetings that they do have, where like it's an excuse for them to talk to the Chinese, and it's an excuse for them to talk to the Japanese, a few other countries. But they also know they're going into the G20, and so they sort of just are prepping themselves to go into the G20. APEC's not the priority for them, because like look what the Canadian mining industry does to Peru. Yeah. Were you sent to Peru by the CIA? No. Nope. 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 I am. Yeah, and then they voted for him in 2004. So no, gringos don't have a memory. Yeah. They voted for him in 2004 after he started the war in Iraq. Are you Canadian? I am both. I am from the U.S. and Canada. My mother is from the U.S. My father is from Canada. I was born in California. I was raised near Ottawa in Canada. Yeah. No, the system doesn't really favor the people of Peru. I agree, it really doesn't. And I agree that it is designed more than anything else to favor politicians. That's why there's so much, or part of why there's so much corruption outside of the societal issues around it. But where in California do I live? Ventura County. So just north of LA. Lima looks like Gotham City. No, the buildings aren't as tall. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, it's a great place. Some of the beaches aren't bad either. You Canadian, unlike American, have a good welfare system. Or Canada has a much better welfare system than the U.S. Yes, much, 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 much better. And there's universal health care, which does not exist in the United States. And there's there's more social safety nets around people in Canada than there are in the United States, where it is much more individualistic. And so you are expected to create your own social safety nets. And that doesn't always work out for people unless you have a ton of money. Right? So, because healthcare in the US is very expensive, things like that. Yeah, I still have family there. In fact, I have a cousin that works for a financial institution there still. Yeah, she's like financial institution executives. You know how they are. Oh. This side of my face, guys. This side of my face. You can probably tell on the camera. Yeah, yeah, you can't. You can really tell on the camera. Let's do this. Does that make it look any better? No. I might. I might move to Canada in a couple years to the English side though. I went to university for conflict studies and human rights, and then I also went to college in Canada for journalism. And I am a graduate of the United States Military Intelligence School and some other stuff. Yeah, human rights, conflict studies, and human rights. I know, like, weird. People have those. Yeah, true story. People have those. The interesting thing about taking something like conflict studies and human rights is that you study like a lot of different stuff around those sorts of issues. You have to take political science, you have to take economics, you have to take all sorts of stuff, right? So I think people think like, oh, you must like just sit down and like study wars. No, it's more like it's understanding causes of conflict on like not conflict interpersonal. Like you'll see like a lot of people who like do conflict resolution that is like between individuals. You do, but you have to know like how these things begin, and you need to know how they begin by learning like how the different parts work, right? So you need to have an understanding of economics, you need to have an understanding of political science, you need to have an understanding of history, you need to have an understanding of geography and all these different things that like play a role in how conflict starts, right? And then how it sort of plays out. And as somebody who was an intelligence analyst, I have a pretty good idea of how it plays out. People, they pew pew each other, they shoot each other. That's what happens eventually, right? And you need to understand things like the origins of terrorism and why people do terrorism. And it's like if I know some people on here don't agree with me when I talk about that particular aspect in Peru, because there have been decisions like court decisions lately where political parties have been disbanded, for instance. And I've said I don't really disagree with the ruling. I don't really agree with the ruling, because like even though, yeah, the group is bad and you don't want to have that group gain power, if you dismantle the way through which you would have conversations with them, then they will feel like you took their voice away, which then makes them act in a more extreme way, because what they say is, you're not going to listen to my words, so you need to listen to my actions. Right? So, yeah, I have a little bit of knowledge and stuff, but I don't know. Do you think most people in the military in the US are conservatives? It's probably about 60-40. It depends. Yes, you push them to do things illegally. My first like today is from Jesus. I'm pretty sure there's like almost 2,000 of them. I don't think he was the first one. How can you find me on LinkedIn? Don't. I'm retired. And the last job I had, I worked for Bank of Montreal in Canada. I was a journalist, and then all the journalists, so I was watching my friends get laid off pretty much every week. As the major employers of journalists in Canada were doing cost-cutting measures. And so I was watching a bunch of friends and mentors get laid off and not have jobs. And I didn't like the environment I was in at that point because I'm watching people around me suffer, right? Through that, the not knowing if you're going to come into work that day and you're going to be laid off. And so even though I was safe at that point, I quit and I switched over to finance because I needed to have something that was going to be more secure, where I knew that if I woke up in the morning, I was still going to have a job. So that's what I did. Matthew Hodston, the best real estate agent in Eastern Ontario and arguably the best restaurateur. I saw some news here today about Ukraine and Russia and wasn't sure how true they were. Well, where's the good news? Dude, we're waiting. We're still waiting for the good news. The good news is that you doubt me? Yeah, I know.
I doubt it. That's my skill, not yours.
Yeah, I know. It's just foam spilled out before I could turn it down in time. Where's the good news? Yeah, we're waiting for the good news. I guess the best news of the day is that the guy who committed femicide suicided himself. So that's the best news of the day. And that's not good news. So
that's not Justice League. That's coward. It's a coward.
So you like hockey as a Canadian? I love hockey as a Canadian. I played hockey until I played hockey like competitively until I was 19. And then I joined the military. And then of course I played like men's league and stuff like that afterwards, like pickup hockey, but not until after I had MS, and so I wasn't nearly as good anymore. It sucked. So in that respect, I don't miss it because it frustrated me to not be able to do the things that I used to do when I was healthy. Right? Where am I from?
Africa. She just said that you play hockey and this.
Yeah.
Can figure it out.
I'm from Lilliput. I get Jav, I do that because I get asked this like so many times in one live, and I understand it. It's just like so many times.
Be patient.
Both the U.S. and Canada. I am from both. Born in California, raised near Ottawa in Canada.
I'm going to the pharmacy.
I'm ready in 26 minutes when this ends.
Okay. So you come in? No, it's because you don't look like you want to go
I don't really want to do much of anything given what my face is doing on this side.
Just give me the instructions and I do it for you.
Okay, the allergy medicine is on the shelf in the bathroom. They were saying that the U.S. allowed Ukraine to fire missiles. Yes. So what happened is that the U.S. was in supplying weapons to Ukraine. They said, okay, here's these weapons, but you're not allowed to fire them too far into Russia. Like if it's something right on the border and you're engaged in active fighting, then okay, fine. But you can't hit strategic targets in Russia. And Biden lifted that restriction, so now Ukraine can hit strategic targets in Russia using those longer range missiles. 26 minutes. So at 7:30, the live concludes. So it's scheduled every day. You can see the schedule if you view me on YouTube, although not a lot of people do that. If they do it, they do it later. Because all lives on YouTube just sit there, the recording does. So I do this 12 to 1 every day and 6 to 7:30 every day. where we start off and I go through news that's occurred through the day, and then we have a conversation about Peru, basically, like what's going on, how you feel about it, all of that stuff. Okay. Because I think it's important that people in Peru not just hear me, a gringo, say the news to you in English, or that people outside of Peru hear me just say the news in English. I think it's important that like you talk with each other and have a conversation about news and ask questions of me, since I'm the one that's like saying the news to you and answering questions and all that stuff, right? So, but I think it's important that people like have conversations, because the more people have conversations, then the less people think things like, if you're from Cajamarca, you're a dummy. Or if you're from Ica, you're a dummy. Or if you're from Puno, you're a dummy. You know, because like, boy, do we get that. Right? So it's important that people understand that there are different realities all over Peru, and that there are different realities even in Lima, and there are different realities within Miraflores, and there are different realities within San Isidro, and there are different realities within Lince, and they are all different. Everybody has a different reality. Everybody has different experiences, right? So you should have conversations with each other so that you can understand what those different realities are, because I really don't like when one Peruvian says to another Peruvian, you're dumb and uneducated because you're from the jungle, or you're dumb and uneducated because you're from the Sierra, or something like that. Don't fucking do that. Don't do that. Because I'll tell you, the lady who's making all the noise back there, she's more educated than all of us, probably. And she's lived all over Peru.
A diploma or
yeah, but no, you are more educated than all of us, probably. And she lived all over Peru. So there's no like, oh, you're from here, so you're dumb.
Oh yeah, I have to. I have to shut up or talk about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, you went to school in Huancayo for a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See? So if people from Huancayo are really dumb, I guess that means they're all capable of getting master's degrees. They're just that dumb. You live in Peru. Yes, I live in Peru. I am a legal resident of Peru. I have a carne extranjera. Yeah, whatever. My face isn't working right now. I'm attempting to speak. Extranjeria, sorry. But still, I am attempting to speak, because this side of my face is not really fully working right now. But yeah. So yes, I live in Peru. Yes, I have eyes. Yes, I read Peruvian news all goddamn day. They talk like that because they have prejudices? Yeah, they do. And in a lot of cases, they have entitlement.
For me, it's more urban against rural areas.
Yeah, it's urban versus rural, but it's also like I live in the big special city of Lima, and you live in that small city over there, and it doesn't mean much.
Again, like, don't generalize. We are not. I'm a Limeña, and I'm
You
not
just
like
generalized, and I just generalized back. So
generalization doesn't help.
she hates generalization. Like if you could,
I hate it.
she would only really like it if you could provide a spreadsheet with the specific names of people who talk that way to her, so that those specific people are addressed, as opposed to saying that, like, you know, Limeños really don't think much of people from, you know, the Sierra, and then she goes, that's not true because you can't generalize. Some people in Lima very much like people from the mountains. Right. I am one of those people that I am from the Lima area and very much appreciate people from the mountains. I like people from the mountains. I really do.
Dina Boluarte is Peruvian. Not all Peruvians are Dina Boluarte.
Yes.
My point.
Yeah, I think that's not lost on anybody. I think when only 3% of the country likes you, then yeah.
She's Peruvian. So when you talk about
nobody confuses Dina Boluarte with representing Peru. You hate generalizations too? Yeah, but the thing you also need to understand about generalizations is that, like, they exist for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? Because if a majority of your population tends to do things a certain way, you know, it's like I got generalized in this live, guys. I got generalized in this live several times. I was asked, what city in the US did you live in? Fort Drum is the last one I lived in, right? I didn't live in a city outside of when I was a child, right? Or briefly, I guess I lived in a couple as I was doing things, but very briefly. But it usually does have a negative connotation. But like people ask me, like, well, you're Canadian, so you love hockey. I mean, I specifically do because I played it for like a long time competitively. But just because you're Canadian doesn't mean you like hockey. There are lots of Canadians who don't like hockey. Like, I don't understand them. I don't understand people that don't like hockey, but I don't understand Peruvians who don't like hockey. I don't understand Mexicans that don't like hockey. I don't understand...
you don't understand that word.
I don't understand...
Passion with soccer.
I don't understand Africans who don't like hockey. I don't understand anybody that doesn't like hockey. How do you not like hockey?
We didn't grow up with it. We don't have ice.
Right?
So expensive.
So, like...
It's a very expensive sport.
It's a very expensive sport. It is very expensive. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars a year to play hockey.
Soccer, just go outside with a ball. And you don't even need a ball. With a ball made of paper or clothes or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need shoes. You can be naked. You can be playing the beach.
You probably shouldn't play soccer naked.
Oh, we play naked.
Nah, you probably shouldn't though. Gentlemen, you especially shouldn't play soccer naked. That's my recommendation to you. You will end up with bruises in places where you don't want there to be bruises. But, I mean, if you do, right? Just like generalizations exist for a reason, and they're meant, I think, a lot of times as like shorthand to address larger issues, right? Like, Americans are uneducated. And by Americans, I mean people from the United States. People from the United States are uneducated. Okay, is that a fair statement? Well, they're also home to some of the best universities in the world, the Princetons, Harvard, Stanford, those sorts of universities. Okay. But the average reading level among Americans is somewhere between 5th and 6th grade. Okay, so is it fair for me to say that Americans are uneducated? Well, on the average, they are. Right? On the average, if you are from the United States, you, on average, read at somewhere between a 5th and 6th grade level. You are, on average, uneducated. Right? So, like, generalizations exist for a reason. You just have to be careful that you are actually generalizing correctly. Like, that's my thing. Because my thing is more about accuracy of what you're saying. If I say people from the United States are white, I mean, statistically, whites still make up the majority of the population in the United States, statistically, or the greatest portion of the population in the United States. So statistically, right? But is the U.S. a white country? No, it's not. Right? So, like, but if I'm talking about, like, the overall representation of their racial backgrounds, then yeah, I guess they're white, but it is very diverse. And so, like, that's where you need to be accurate about where you are generalizing, because the U.S. is not a white country. But statistically, I guess you can make that argument. But otherwise, no, shut up. Right? But, like, this is, like, there are things where you can generalize. I just ask that you be specific. It's the same thing as if somebody comes in here and says somebody is a socialist. Well, if you're going to make that statement, you better be able to back up how somebody is a socialist. Right? Like, how? Doesn't know what the gringro is. The gringro.
He gloated like a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. It's a funny way.
I agree, Elizabeth.
Or Blake needs to improve.
Not when I'm doing this, because this is the news in English. It's not the news in Spanglish or Spanish. It's the news in English. Right?
That's correct.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the news in English for a reason. Otherwise, I would just join, like, La Encerrona or La Comunicadora Favorita on a live, and I would just, like, I would sit there and read what people are saying and listen to what they're saying, because you have news in Spanish. You don't need,
but they are,
like, you don't necessarily need more news in Spanish. You've got great Spanish creators. If you want to, like, get news in Spanish, like, fucking
La Encerrona, La Contra.
Yeah. But, like, La Encerrona to me is, like, up here. Right? But
people accuse that journalists and their team of being lefties.
Oh my God, are they lefties?
Manipulative.
Oh my God, are they lefties?
They are NGO receiving money from
Oh my God, are they NGOs
Americans
receiving money from the Americans? Nowadays, people need to learn English and Chinese. I would encourage both. I don't know that you're at the point yet where you need to, but it would certainly help a lot. Right? And I'm not saying that because I'm like, oh, if you guys learn English, then I don't need to learn Spanish. Well, I'm saying that because the international language of business is English. The most common mother tongue language in the world is Mandarin Chinese. So, like, the most spoken language is English. The language with the most mother tongue speakers is Mandarin Chinese. So, What about India? Yeah. India has, like I could see it. I could see, like I don't discourage people like learning, but the thing is, India went through this too, where India, especially because of British colonialism, a lot of them speak English. So, like, I was when I was living in Ottawa, I was friends and briefly colleagues with a guy who was the son of the High Commissioner to Canada from India, the Indian High Commissioner to Canada, and he spoke English better than most Canadians. Why your attention to Peru? Because I live here. I love to hear Indians. He didn't have that accent. He didn't have it at all. Like he had pretty much he had no accent at all. Like he was the son of a diplomat, right? And a senior diplomat at that. Like the Indian High Commissioner to Canada is not a small deal, right? So, and since his father had been a diplomat for a long time, he wasn't second. There was no second gen there. He was the father of the Indian. He was the son of the Indian High Commissioner, right? So, like, it's just a matter of really, really high levels of education in terms of learning how to speak without English without the accent. Is it difficult to live in Peru? No, not for me. It is for other people. That's relative. I mean, it would be really fucking difficult for me if I was like having to run a food cart on the street. Yeah, it would be really hard.
Anything else? Right?
Yeah, that one.
Anything else?
If they don't have that though, something equivalent. I don't care if it's a pill or syrup. Just why did you choose Peru? Because my wife is from here, guys. They do get taught to lose it. If you go to higher level education, you do get taught to lose the accent. Yeah. Can I legally run a food cart? I can, at this point, legally run a food cart. If I was running a food cart, I would definitely make picarones. But the problem is I would be broke because I would eat all the picarones. My wife is from Lima. That's why I'm here. Her family's from Lima. That's why I'm here. Yeah. Churros are better. What's better, churros or picarones?
They're not comparable for me.
She says they're not comparable.
One have syrup, the other have
cinnamon.
No, one is syrup and the other have dulce de leche. So
dulce de leche. Yeah, that's right.
Sorry. My ignorance. I'm ignorant on that. I don't know. It's a taste.
So, Elizabeth, I think you were generalizing there, saying that churros are better. You're taking it. Yeah, okay. $1 million question. Alianza Lima or Universitario? Neither. Oh, don't lose your mind. Don't lose your mind. Neither. I have to, whenever we're driving into the city, we have to drive by the Alianza Lima training grounds near Lurin. It smells over there. In Canada. That's where we met. She worked for the Canadian government. We met in Canada. Several flavors now too. So, not Alianza Lima or Universitario. It would have been Sporting Cristal, but like I think like we were both Sporting Cristal supporters. Me sort of by default because like I don't fucking know. And but she was always a Sporting Cristal supporter. But like with everything that's going on, I think every Sporting Cristal supporter is pretty disappointed. So not so much anymore. Nicanor Bouarte. What an asshole. What's happening? Oh, you know, hanging out for another 4 minutes. I'm here for another 4 minutes, and then I am off for the evening and back at noon tomorrow for the midday update. So before I go, then I guess I'll go into my spiel because I only got 4 minutes left. I think that's a fair assessment, Valhalla. It's a fair assessment, yeah. Californians are also very neutral, and since I was born in California but raised in Canada, I ended up with a very neutral accent. So I'm available on YouTube. I'm available on TikTok. Okay, Pensante Peru is. Okay, Pensante Peru is available on Twitter, although there's going to be less of that. And Twitter is available on Blue Sky, which is there's going to be more of. We're making that transition. There's too many people leaving Twitter right now, or what was Twitter. And Blue Sky is more like old Twitter, and so a lot of people have moved over, and so audiences sort of dictate that we start making that transition. So Pensante Peru is YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter, still for the time being, and the website, of course, pensanteperu.blog. Yes, it's a .blog, but that's only because it saved me money when setting it up, and I could not buy a .pe when I was in Canada still. So at some point it'll migrate to a .pe, but in the time being, it was like, I'll save myself money and I'll set everything up so that I can just migrate it over later. And so that's what I did. So pensanteperu.blog. If you are interested in contributing, okay, all contributions are in English. Send me a message either on TikTok or on YouTube, and we'll have a conversation. Don't start the conversation by just saying hi. Say like something like, "Hi, I'm interested in contributing." If you just say hi, I'm not sure if you're like spam or like some weird lady on the internet trying to lure me to her van with candy. I don't know. Like, don't kidnap me off of the internet. So just say like, hi, I'm interested in contributing, and we will have a conversation. I'm interested in contributors from all over the country. It's just in English is the only real requirement. Right, so just, if you're interested, message me on here or on YouTube, and we'll have a conversation. We'll talk about it. It just means then what happens in that process, you give me your email address, I set up a way for you to contribute. Donnie, who is in and out of here tonight but is usually like very stable in here, he's a contributor now. What do you do exactly? I think it's just brand name is what it is. Pensante Peru, Thinker Peru. Yes. Pensante Peru. It's a brand. They both start with P, right? As alliteration. I needed some alliteration, right? And so, yeah. So if you're interested in contributing, hit me up on here or on YouTube, and we'll have a conversation. It is now 7:31, so even with that, I went a minute over my time, I suppose. I'm still adjusting to how cars don't stop for pedestrians. I've only been hit once. So I will see you all back here tomorrow for the noon midday update. That's 12 p.m. midday update tomorrow, and we'll go from there. All right. See you later, everybody. Enjoy your evening. I'm going to go watch some hockey now because I'm half Canadian. I need to do that. Bye.